How's it going, everybody? AZPlow21 here, back with another episode of my UFC save on WMMA 5, and I start this episode with a big apology. So, the last episode was very shitty, and it was very shitty because the sound was completely off, and for that, I'm extremely sorry. Just a stupid mistake that I made. Obviously, you can see what happens if you're able to watch the episode in its entirety. I do not blame you if you do not have the patience to just watch a completely silent episode. I completely get it. Nonetheless, we are going to just go over what happened on UFC 253 in this episode, and then following that, I will be deleting that. Episode. So, with that said, if you haven't watched the last episode, we had UFC 253 Dillashaw versus Almeida, and as you can see here, the results for the main card are as follows. Country Roy Nelson defeating Derek Lewis in the heavyweight division. Tyron Woodley moves up to the middleweight division to beat Talis Latis. Ryan Bader beats Max Nunes in the light heavyweight division. Robbie Lawler beats Daichi Abe in the welterweight division. And we have a new bantamweight champion, Thomas Almeida, as he defeats TJ Dillashaw. You take a look at Thomas Almeida's road to the title. His last loss was to Uriah Faber, then beat Joe Soto, John Dodson, John Lineker, Tom Duquesnoy before taking on Dillashaw for the title. So a new bantamweight champion, always very exciting. And we've had a couple, and I say a couple, we've had a lot of fight nights that went on, a lot of fight nights that actually meant a lot. And just quickly, look at that attendance, 32,000 people watching that pay-per-view in Florida. I can only imagine how many are going to be at this pay-per-view we have going on for you today. So right after Dillashaw Almeida, we had this UFC Fight Night Sabata versus Davis, another UFC Fight Pass fight card. You can go ahead and pause the video if you want to look at any of the results there. Nothing too exciting, really. That's the prelims that I'm showing you right now. Main event of this one, Joey Davis beats Peter Sabata. Go ahead and take a quick look at Joey Davis. Hired him from Bellator with a record of only 4-0, and then I sent him down to Invicta, which was at the time that I had signed him. Invicta was my only developmental territory, my only developmental promotion. So I sent him down to Invicta. He went undefeated there. I brought him up with a 9-0 record. He lost the first fight to Emil Meek, who we all know is a really good prospect in the UFC right now. Then went on to defeat Lorenz Larkin, Josh Berkman, and then Peter Sabata in this main event. So that was the first fight night that we had going for us. Next was UFC on Fox, Holloway versus Pico, a very important fight in the featherweight division in this main event, but maybe one that it's hard to explain. Aaron Pico in the main event beats Max Holloway via submission in round number 3. We had Andrei Koreshkov beating Mickey Gall, Alistair Overeem beating Vitaly Minakov to take away his undefeated record. There you can see he is now 24-1. Kevin Lee beating Nick Lentz at the lightweight division. Stipe Miocic beating Frank Mir at the heavyweight division. And so there you can see Aaron Pico. And with that, I was going to show you this. Aaron Pico is officially the number 1 contender in the featherweight division. But Aaron Pico will not be fighting for the featherweight title, and the reason for that I will explain to you in a moment. Go ahead and take a look at the prelims for that UFC on Fox card if you want to, as we move on to our next fight night, which complicated things greatly. Khabib versus Gaethje. Only 1,400 people showed up in Iberia to this show, a UFC Fight Pass show. And the main event was Justin Gaethje taking on Khabib Nurmagomedov, and Gaethje beats Khabib. Now, Justin Gaethje, of course, is a great lightweight, as is Khabib. Khabib lost this fight. This was a title eliminator for him. He lost the fight, so he will not be fighting for the title. Now, Gaethje has previously fought for the title, and he lost to Conor. But I have a rule set in place that you're not allowed to fight for the title unless you're on a win streak. Now, he lost to Conor. That was the title fight, and he just beat Khabib, which is a great fight, a great win, I should say. But it is not a win streak. It's one win under his belt since losing to Conor, but it's not a win streak. So technically, within the rules that I've set up for myself. I'm not within my rights to book Gaethje for a title fight, especially since he's just lost to Conor in a title fight. Like that wouldn't necessarily happen in the UFC either. I mean, I can unless it was for Conor, but he's going to sell pay-per-views. Justin Gaethje doesn't have that type of power yet. So Justin Gaethje will not be getting a title fight. Neither will Khabib. It wouldn't make sense considering he just lost. So that leaves the lightweight division in a little bit of a limbo, and I'll show you right now what I mean. If we can go to the rankings here, and we go over to the lightweight division, you see, okay, cool, Gaethje's on top. That makes sense. There's Khabib. Then there's Dustin Poirier, who recently fought for the lightweight title. Jakashi, Kevin Lee, Edson Barbosa. But where's Conor McGregor? You're asking where Conor McGregor is, and that's a very good question because he's our champion. Well, so if you look right here, Jose Aldo is of course the featherweight champion, and there's some red by his name. That means that he has a fight scheduled. Yair has some red by him. That could mean that he has a fight scheduled, but he's fighting against Zabit. So, you guys are getting the picture. Yes, Jose Aldo is fighting Conor McGregor for the featherweight title. History is doomed to repeat itself. So yeah, Conor McGregor is going to try to become a 2-division champion again, both in this save and in real life. Conor McGregor is really good in this game. I don't get it, considering he's been proven in real life to not have the best stand-up, not have the best wrestling. He got absolutely demolished by Khabib. Khabib's stats are kind of a little bit nerfed in this game. It's understandable. This game, the mod for this game was made out in about January, so he hadn't even won the lightweight title yet against Yaquinta. So it was kind of tough to gauge how good he was going to be, considering he was only on prelims and on undercards. But Jose Aldo is the featherweight title, and there you can see the title fight is scheduled for UFC 257 in February of 2021. Aldo versus McGregor. So if you take a look at this, I even have it written down right here. There you can see in the lightweight division it says Conor does his thing for now. That's exactly what he's going to be doing. He's going to be fighting for the featherweight title essentially, and meanwhile I'll let the lightweight division kind of figure itself out. I don't imagine that Justin. This is the thing. Kevin Lee, arguably, isn't necessarily deserving of a title shot either, but if he was able to beat somebody like Justin Gaethje, I would definitely give him a title shot. And if Justin Gaethje wins his next fight, he'll technically qualify for a title fight, meaning I could give it to him without having any qualms about the rules that I set up for myself. Khabib's eliminated because he just lost the fight, and Dustin Poirier is eliminated because he just fought for the title against Conor and lost. So essentially, this lightweight division is kind of in shambles for a little bit. Until we see like what kind of results play out. Jakashi's fighting against top 11 opponent, but not necessarily anyone that I would be like super impressed with if he were to win. So the title eliminator to make right now is Kevin Lee versus Justin Gaethje, and whoever wins that fight gets the title fight against Conor next. Now Kevin Lee, I'm a really big fan of in real life. He's a great shit talker. Low key, I think the only reason he gets flack for being a trash talker is because he's black and because he likes to talk trash. Now, he has been, proven to be wrong, and he has lost fights, which Conor has just now recently started losing fights, so Conor kind of gets the benefit of the doubt in that case. But I like Kevin Lee, and he's had a little win streak going on for himself here. And I'm going to give him this title eliminator opportunity. There you can see he lost to Khabib and Jakashi. So even then, I don't know if he's going to beat Justin, but I mean, this is about 2 years removed from that. So if he is able to beat Justin Gaethje, that would prove him worthy of a title shot, in my opinion. So that's the fight that's going to happen to determine who Conor's next opponent is in the lightweight division. But in the meantime, he might go out and win the featherweight title too. And then who knows what's going to happen, really. Conor might be fighting all the freaking time, trying to defend these two belts, and he might do it because he's absolutely OP in this game, just unbelievably amazing. He lost to Edson Barbosa for the title, not even due to his own fault. It was like a technical stoppage because he got injured, and then he immediately won it back in a rematch that I set up. So, Conor is great in this game. I don't really know what else to say. Um, but yeah, so Khabib versus Gaethje. If we go ahead and look back at that, you can take a look at the main card fights and take a look at the prelims. There, you can go ahead and pause that if you want to. And the most recent fight night that we had was Jakari Souza versus CB Dollaway, and there you can see in the main event. I set this up for Souza to get a win under his belt because he had just gotten off losing in the title fight, and this 40-year-old motherfucker goes and loses to CB Dollaway. Now, Dollaway is no slouch by any means, but I mean, you got some oranges in there, some reds, you know. That's not someone that should be beating Ronaldo Souza. And now this guy, like, he beat Jake Allenbeller, lost to Gastel, and beat Machida, beat Romero. I'm getting the sense that this guy can only beat guys that are his age. So yeah, Souza's kind of in a tough place now, and you can see he was number 3 in the middleweight division for a while. Now he's number 11, so it's kind of close to the beginning of the end for Jakare. There you can see the rest of the card. AJ McKee actually drawing with Yunusilao. Take a look at the prelims for that show. So that was Jakare versus Dollaway. And we are just about set to get UFC 254 underway. But before that, we are going to talk about the next fight nights that we have going for us. UFC Fight Night Henderson versus Price is scheduled. You can take a look at the fights there, ask any questions if you want to in the comments. If you don't see any of the fighters that you're rooting for, if you're still curious about other fighters. I remember one guy had mentioned Fedor. Now, and there's something else that I have to talk to you guys about. If we search for Fedor, because he is certainly not on my roster, Fedor is not on the active fighters roster. So then, if we go over to retired fighter, which I am sure that he is, even though I am not 100% sure, Fedor Emelianenko is retired in this game. His last fight was at Bellator 200, which was in 2018 in this game. Literally 4 months into this game save, he retired. And if I go to try and talk him out of retirement, he doesn't want to because he's just too old at this point. So the guy that mentioned Fedor, I'm sorry, but I can't sign him. I totally would if I could. He's not that great of an analyst either, so I don't even have interest in signing him on to be a broadcaster for us, even though I'm pretty sure he can't speak English to begin with. So there's that. The guy that wanted me to sign Dylan Dennis because of all the shit that happened at 229, he's not in this he's not in the save either. He's just not in the game entirely. That could just be because he wasn't active when this mod came out. It could just be because he's a kickboxer and not necessarily an MMA fighter. I don't know what the case is, but Dylan Dennis is not in this game, and I don't know if he's under a different name in this game or anything like that. I just can't find him. But I think that's about everybody's requests for fighters and whatnot. So there's one more thing that I need to talk to you guys about, and after that, there's actually another thing I need to talk to you about. So the Ultimate Fighter Season 30 is underway. Remember, we had talked about how I wanted to start a women's atomweight division, and that is actually underway now. We have our 16 fighters with Team Dos Santos and Team Velasquez. That's the next heavyweight championship fight, so that's going to be the Ultimate Fighter up until those guys are ready to, step into the octagon for their heavyweight title fight. And we already had week 1. Preeti Kadakia beating Aman Darabi. Now, Aman Darabi came into this as the number 2 rated atomweight in the world. So to already be eliminated, that's a tough blow, really, to her. I figured she might just cruise all the way to the championship and fight for, because this is setting up for like the inaugural atomweight champion, kind of like the flyweight one did. But yeah, so we're still a good 14, 15 weeks away from even getting that title fight scheduled. But just thought I'd let you guys know how the Ultimate Fighter is going on. I might give you guys an update according to the episodes. I mean, it's going to be like 4 weeks apart from each other, so it would be nice to do that for you. Probably about 4 episodes until I even am able to get that scheduled for you. All right, and one more thing that I have to show you guys is really stupid, to be honest, but it's something that I kind of want to do just to, add more women's divisions into the UFC. And I'm also looking to add a men's atomweight division, and that might be the next thing that I do for the Ultimate Fighter, or just for a tournament. I'm not exactly too sure, but I have set up a women's I want to call it middleweight, but it's basically a light heavyweight division. So yeah, so I've set up this tournament. I've signed a bunch of fighters, and they're basically all from Japan, to fight in this light heavyweight championship tournament. There's 16 of them. They're all undefeated. They're all around 5 or 6 and 0. And by the time we get to a championship fight, it's basically going to be two 10 and 0 fighters fighting for the first ever UFC Women's Light Heavyweight Championship. Now, the the weight classes are very weird in this division because they're basically welterweights, middleweights, and light heavyweights. In this game, a welterweight can, gain enough weight so he or she can fight in the light heavyweight division. So that's basically what I've done. I've signed up a bunch of welterweights to compete in this tournament, so that way there's more fighters to go around. And after this 16 fighter tournament is done, we can just go on from there and have ourselves a normal division. But yeah, this is going to set up the first light heavyweight champion, and I'm very excited about that. That's going to be like a multi-month project. Like, there's not going to be a champion for at least 2 years or so, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how that plays out. And let me know down in the comments how you guys feel about that, how you feel about the idea of a men's atomweight division. I know some people might be thinking that I'm stretching myself a little bit too thin. The UFC is a big company and all that. I have my developmental, promotions that I'm sending rookies to get fights under their belt and get wins. But this is something that I actually feel like pretty strongly about. Something that I feel pretty strongly about. Just, getting those divisions out there and letting it be known to the public. UFC is a big enough company where they can afford to take some losses, as far as like promoting things and whatnot. Like, they can afford to just have a show where it's all tournament fights and stuff like that. And that's not what I've done thus far, but that is what I'm going to look to do when, this women heavyweight tournament starts going forward a little bit more. It is going to be curious to see, like, if should people get injured in the tournament, who I'm going to choose to replace them with and whatnot. But I'm excited. Just a lot of curious ideas that I have and things to make the UFC a little bit different, and it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to, and I hope that you guys are too. So now, looking forward to the next couple of months. UFC 254, of course, is tonight. Luque versus Nelson for the welterweight title. Women's featherweight championship also on the line. UFC 255, which will be the next episode, is Daniel Cormier versus Rumble Johnson 3 for the undisputed light heavyweight championship. We also have Paulo Costa taking on Lyoto Machida, I should say, for the middleweight championship. Rory McDonald, Mike Perry on that fight card. Lombard, Rockhold, and Manua versus Viante. Should Viante win that, he'll be in line for a light heavyweight title opportunity in the near future. And then UFC 256, Dumont versus Nunes. Of course, Norma Dumont winning the bantamweight championship rather surprisingly over Ronda Rousey and defending it for the first time against Amanda Nunes. And the co-main event is another women's championship fight. It's Jillian Robertson, the women's flyweight champion, taking on Mackenzie Dern, the American Brazilian who doesn't know how to speak English very well. Former flyweight champion looking to regain her title. Chris Weidman taking on Bradley Scott. Super Sage Northcutt taking on Anthony Pettis, and Sugar Rashad Evans taking on Yoel Romero in a fight where both fighters are 40 plus. Now, 257, I already told you. Jose Aldo versus Conor McGregor is going to be for the featherweight championship. That's going to be on that fight card. And Cain Velasquez versus Junior Dos Santos will also be on that fight card. That's going to be the co-main event. Unbelievable. For the featherweight championship, Conor, of course, with a chance to make himself a double champion yet again. That's going to be a great show. But that's then, and this is tonight. And we have UFC 254, Luque versus Nelson tonight for this episode. And I did make sure to put it on the pay-per-view providers, and we're going to see just how much money we can make off this fight card. So we're all set to go. UFC 254, Luque versus Nelson for the welterweight title. As we are just about set to go, we have our first fight in the prelims. Drew Dober taking on Magomed Mustafayev. And Drew Dober 32 against the 32-year-old. And Mustafayev defeats Dober to improve to 18-4. And he now has himself a nice little win streak. Shows some respect to his opponents. And now it's Zach Cummings taking on Luan Tarzan Chagas. 19-5-1 for Chagas versus 23-8 for Cummings. And Cummings takes it via unanimous decision, improves to 24-8. Next up is going to be Bartosz Favinsky taking on Roberto Soldic. A big favorite is Soldic, as he wins it in the first round via submission. Taking a look at Soldic, this was actually his UFC debut. Signed him up. He had a big layover in Europe, and this was running off of a 5-fight win streak. Was Soldic, and he gets his win in his UFC debut, and he says that he is happy to win his UFC debut. Next on, it's Abu Azayatar, who I should mention missed a weight, so he will now be fighting in the middleweight division moving forward against Darren Till, who we actually just saw fight for the welterweight title, number 25 in the UFC in this save. It's awkward for Darren Till. He was injured to start out this save, or he got injured, I should say, so he was off for a little more than a year. So he lost his weight in the rankings simply just because he wasn't around. Had to take some fights. He beat Oliver Enkamp, Josh Koscheck, and then lost to Andrei Koreshkov, who's a big prospect coming forward. So his momentum has been stalled a little bit because of injury. But hopefully Darren Till wins this, as he does. Knocks him out in the first round. So Darren Till moving up in the rankings, hopefully. And maybe we'll get that Wonder Boy fight after all. Arnold Almighty Allen taking on Gavin Tucker in the featherweight division. 13-3 for Tucker, taking on 15-3 in Allen. I'm going to take the young man from England in this one. Typically, when the betting lines are that close, it usually goes with the youth, as it does not right here, as Gavin Tucker wins via TKO in round 2. Take a look at Gavin here, as he was on a 2-fight losing streak, so a well-needed win for him, Gavin Tucker, as he moves forward in his career. Next is James Gallagher taking on Kenny Jordan. Only 3 losses between the two fighters, very close. This guy apparently trains at the same camp that Conor McGregor fights at. Only 22 years old, it said Gallagher is, so still 24, I should say. So still very young. Kenny Jordan, 32 years old, coming off a 4-fight win streak. It's going to be interesting to see who wins this one. I'm going to take Gallagher like I usually do with the youth, but Kenny Jordan wins via unanimous decision, going and improving to 12-1-1, and we'll see if he's ranked going forward, Kenny Jordan. Next is Mike Santiago taking on Raoni Barcelos. I'm going to take Barcelos in this one in the featherweight division, as Mike Santiago actually pulls off what I would consider an upset. He was coming off a win over Buschamp, but has kind of been, 50-50 in his career thus far, and he gets a big win over the Brazilian tonight in the featherweight division. And he said he wants to face off against Jason Knight. Next, in the strawweight division, it's Randa Marcos at 10-8 taking on Rena Kubota at 11-1. Kubota, nice little prospect out of Japan. Had a lot of fights in Ryzen before she came here. I actually signed her up to Invicta to fight. She had 3 fights, won them all, and then won her debut against Bastara Kikash before losing a somebody's O has to go fight against Alexandra Albu. And this will be the second time you guys see Rena versus Rena Kubota. See that Neto Adesanya fight card. I believe that was episode number 2. So I'm going to take Kubota in this one. She actually takes out Marcos via unanimous decision. Marcos, it might be time for her to go. 10-9 isn't the best fight record. I might send her down to Invicta to get some more, fights in her. The whole package, Kubota is the real deal apparently. We'll see how she fares moving forward. Next up, the last of the prelims, Juliana Pena taking on Irene Aldana. Pena is a big favorite in the bantamweight division, as it's actually Aldana pulling off the upset. 12-6 was Aldana. Last time beating Laura Howarth, who actually is coming off a win herself, so this win looks even a little bit more impressive. But look at that, Aldana making a name for herself thus far, 32 years old. And Pena, she's fallen off quite a bit. She was number 7 in the featherweight and bantamweight division, lost to Berto, and now losing to Aldana. And she's glad that she overcame the odds, considering she was, in fact, the odds-on underdog. As we move on to the main card and to open things up, we have a couple of light heavyweight legends. Mauricio Shogun Hua taking King Mo Muhammad Lawal. King Mo not having the best of times in the UFC, losing his debut to Ozdemir, losing to Gustafsson, losing to Khalil Roundtree, before finally getting a win over Robert Drysdale. So that's how Lawal has been doing. Let's see what Shogun has been up to, as he lost to Rumble Johnson recently, beat Manua, beat Nog, lost to Phil Davis, and lost to Gustafsson. So I think I'm going to take... interesting. I think I'm going to take Hua in this one. Just his experience. He doesn't have a fight team. That could prove costly. King Mo, I just think he doesn't have the experience to deal with Shogun. We'll see who wins, as it is actually Shogun Hua who beats King Mo via TKO in round 1. Very curious to see what happens. What did happen here? Literally 8 seconds. Shogun nails a right cross. Backed him up against the cage. Shogun with a big uppercut. And he just kept rocking him. Unbelievable. Literally 23 seconds into the fight. That's amazing. So a big win for Mauricio Shogun Hua. And who knows? He could have, a little resurgence in the light heavyweight division going forward with a big win over King Mo. Next up in the strawweight division, it's Paige Van Zant taking on Christina Barbie Stanchu. Now, Christina Stanchu is an interesting one because I signed her because she was winning fights outside of the UFC. As you can see there, she won 3 straight. And I figured, she's doing pretty good for herself. Let me sign her up. And she, came in and beat Beck Rawlings, Angela Hill, He Nam, before losing to Eggink and then getting a win over Herrig. But Stanchu has made a little bit of a name for herself. You can see high-level regional. She's definitely improving her game. You can see there, no real oranges or anything, all greens and yellows. So she's definitely getting there. She's only 26 years old, so still a lot of time to grow. Same thing can be said about Paige Van Zant, 11-6, coming off 3 straight wins, Pruknal, Pereira, and Herrig. Her last real big fight was against Rose Namajunas, though, where she did lose in the 3rd round, though. So number 15 pound-per-pound fighter, women-wise. Number 1 flyweight in the world. Number 8 strawweight in the world. I am very curious. I'm kind of tempted to have her fight for the flyweight title should she win this fight. The same thing can be said, though, with Stanchu. I could have her fight for the flyweight title as well. I don't know. Maybe we'll see. Maybe whoever wins this fight, I'll have them fight for the flyweight title. That is to be seen as we skip forward, and it's actually Christina Barbie Stanchu who takes the win. And wow, so Paige Van Zant drops to 11-7. She's still gonna have a great name value. Don't get me wrong, but Christina Barbie Stanchu beating her is huge, and maybe she can challenge for the flyweight title, or maybe even I don't even know. Maybe maybe she can challenge for the strawweight championship in the near future. Lord knows they need challengers in that division. The fight was apparently amazing. That's great. So let's see what Christina says. She just was glad that it was a great fight. And so am I. The immortal Matt Brown taking on Mike Quick Swick in the welterweight division. 39 years old taking on 41 years old. I'm going to take Matt Brown in this one, as Quick Swick actually wins. Interesting. Was coming off a win over Sabata and now has a win over Matt Brown. So Swick, despite being 41 years old, could have something going for him unless he announces his retirement here, and he doesn't. He just says that he has respect for Brown. So now we're at the co-main events for the women's featherweight title. It's Chris Cyborg taking on Marlois Conan for the women's featherweight championship. You can see there Conan came right in and beat Sarah McMahon, then beat Sarah Kaufman for the featherweight title. That was after she came back from retirement. I was able to get her to come back. Cyborg, you can see here, beat GDR to retain her title, lost to Sarah Kaufman, then beat Dufresne and GDR again to get back into the title picture, and now here she is, co-main eventing UFC 254. As we skip to the end, not the main events, and it's actually Marlois Conan beating Cyborg. Unbelievable. So Conan getting it done. Wow. I'm just taking a look at some of this her fights, her like most recent fights and whatnot, losing to Julia Budd, losing to Alexis Dufresne to close out supposedly her career, and then making a little resurgence and beating Chris Cyborg. And so Chris Cyborg, this was essentially her division, but now she's lost the title and lost, the title fight. So it's interesting to see what's going to happen to Cyborg moving forward. Maybe I don't know. It says that she can only fight up to 155. So if there were ever a women's welterweight division, she might be able to fight in there. But for now, she's going to have to stick in the featherweight division and just keep fighting. And as long as Conan's the champion, I don't know if she's going to be able to fight her again, as she is happy to have the belt around her waist. As we have made it to the main event, with Vicente Silent Assassin Luque taking on Gunnar Gunny Nelson for the UFC Welterweight Championship. And this is the main event. This is what we've all been waiting for. Nelson does not have a fight team. I believe he was fighting with CBG Ireland, which is the same camp as Conor McGregor. You can see exactly what he's been up to, beating Court McGee, beating Zach Cummings, Don Young Kim, Colby Covington, and Rafael Dos Anjos. So he is very deserving of this title shot. And you can see what Luque has been up to, beating Cowboy Oliveira, Nakamura, Medeiros, Magny, Condit, and then GSP. A bunch of big names there for him to be beating. So I don't know. Luque, you can see just how good he is. Let's take a look at Gunnar Nelson. He's no slouch either. A little bit more orange and yellow there. I'm going to take Luque in this one, but we'll see exactly what happens. Of course, for the welterweight title, thank you guys for joining me. And I do apologize for the little misstep from the last episode. I will be deleting it after I drop this episode. As the welterweight championship fight is underway, can you imagine both these guys fighting for the title? Nelson, I can. Luque, a little bit maybe down the line, but definitely not right now. The welterweight division is just way too stacked. Every single title fight that has happened in the welterweight division in this save has resulted in a title change. And I mean, that's cool, it's great that it's a competitive division, but it kind of just feels like a hot potato when every single challenger is taking the belt. You kind of want there to be a dominating champion that's able to just stay consistent and hold on to the belt. But I mean, it's great that we have it's a competitive UFC as round 1 expires and the judges say that it goes to Luque. But talking about a little bit more in the UFC in real life, I'm excited for the Derek Lewis and Daniel Cormier fight that's happening a week from Saturday. That's going to be incredible. Of course, we have the Smith fight this Saturday. I believe it's Smith taking, I don't want to say Ozdemir. Let me check who it is again. As round 2 is coming to a close. It is actually Ozdemir taking on Anthony Smith. Michael Johnson also taking on Artem Lobov. As we have some submission attempts here. Trying to isolate a leg. Stops it. Holds him tightly in guard. And Gunnar Nelson apparently won that round. But yeah, Ozdemir taking on Anthony Smith. I think Ozdemir might win that one. And then moving on to UFC 230. Daniel Cormier taking on Derek Lewis. I think Derek's going to lose. But you always have to be wary of his knockout power. He can end fights with just one shot. But I think Daniel's just too great. One of the greatest martial artists of all time. And we also have Jacare taking on Chris Weidman. You just saw him losing to Sibe Dalloway in this save, but in real life, he still has a little bit of momentum behind him. He takes on Chris Weidman. I am going to be rooting for Weidman in that fight. In middleweight division, also David Branch taking on Jared Cannonier. Sorry. I was too busy looking at my phone, and Vicente, the Silent Assassin Luque, just defeated Gunnar Nelson to retain his welterweight title. Let's go ahead and take a look exactly at what happened. Rolls the shoulders, relieves a little bit of tension, moves forward. Nelson scores with a great rock hook, showing some good boxing. Luque scores with 3 quick punches that set up a nice uppercut and immediately gets knocked out. So with a big ol' uppercut, Luque takes out Gunnar Nelson in the 3rd round. Wow, so it's going to be interesting to see who Luque's next challenger is. If you can see there, I have it there at Nelson, but he is officially done and away with, as is, And I think you can see exactly what's going on now. Yep. Can you see that? Holly Holm? Yep. So the next featherweight challenger will in fact be Holly Holm. The reason for that is Holly Holm had a fight scheduled against Haley Hunt, who is a bantamweight fighter, kind of a regen fighter. She was on a like 9-fight win streak, so I decided to give her a chance against Holly Holm. She got injured and had to pull out of that fight. So I just decided, you know what? Holly Holm's on a little bit of a win streak. I'm just going to, let her fight for the featherweight title. That is something that the UFC probably would do. I forgot to check how much money we made as, boom, $29 million in pay-per-view, guys. Unbelievable job. Successful pay-per-view, $34 million in profit. I forgot to check the attendance, but $34 million in profit's always pretty good. But yeah, so Holly Holm will be the next challenger in the featherweight division for Marloes Coenen. Like I said, Cyborg, it's going to be interesting to see what happens to her. But as far as the welterweight division, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens. I mean, the same thing could happen with Conor, where the welterweight division is just too stale or something like that. But the welterweight division is never stale. There's always at least one capable challenger in that division. The only question is, who is going to be next? We're going to find that out in the near future. But like I said, some more things to look forward to. The strawweight division for the women, you can see their unification is my agenda. Claudia Gadelha is the current champion. She currently holds the title, the undisputed title. Namajunas holds the interim title. Should Gadelha come back in the near future, I will get that unification bout set up. But for now, Namajunas is just going to be the interim title holder. Once again, I want to see who the welterweight challenger will be. There you can see JDS will challenge for the heavyweight title at UFC 258. Remember, guys, this is all leading towards that big UFC 300 fight card. Still 42 episodes away, but hopefully we can get there. So yeah, that was UFC 250. That was UFC 2. Oh God, I can't believe I forgot it already. UFC 254. That was UFC 254. I can see some of the mail that I've got going on. Some people need to be renewed, both from the UFC and from my developmental promotions. So there's that. Take a look at the rankings. We'll update them. And no movement in the heavyweight division. A little bit of movement in the light heavyweight division. Monahan, Jordan Johnson, and OSP moving up. And Lavoie, of course, moving down. Hua not moving up despite getting that win. So, King Mo, it's kind of the end of the line for him in a little bit. But he will keep on getting fights. Middleweight division, no movement. Welterweight division, Nelson going down to number 4. McDonald now the number 1 contender. I mean, technically right now. He's got a fight against Mike Perry, who's number 8. And let's see. Rory McDonald is on a win over Donald Cerrone. And let's see what Mike Perry's been up to. He's on quite the win streak. I don't know, you guys. Maybe if Mike Perry is able to beat McDonald, that would be pretty impressive to me, and it would be worthy of a title fight. Let's see. Robbie Lawler, what have you been up to? You beat Daichi Abe. That's not very impressive. You're on a win streak, though. Rafael Dos Anjos is fighting Donald Cerrone, who is number 13. So I think, you guys, it's going to be this fight right here. McDonald and Perry. And when exactly is that happening? That's happening at our next pay-per-view. So that's going to be a big fight because it is essentially going to be our welterweight title eliminator. So let's go ahead and write that in right now. McDonald, Perry, winner. So we have our title eliminator set up for 255, or not 255, 255 actually, yeah. So next month, next episode, that's going to be a big fight to look out for. Matt Brown losing down after losing, Soldich moving up after winning. Can't remember if he was even... He was ranked 16th, now in the top 10. So be sure to look out for Soldich in the welterweight division as well. Swick moving up to the top 20 after winning. Till getting into number 22 after winning himself. No movement in the lightweight division or the featherweight division or the bantamweight division or the flyweight division. There you can see the ranking for our new light heavyweight division in the women's section. A little bit of movement in the featherweight division. Cyborg moving down to number 3 and Kaufman moving up to number 2. She has a fight against GDR coming up. But like I said, the featherweight division is going to be interesting for the time being. Holly Holm will be the next competitor for Conan, and that's going to take at least 2 months to get that set up because Conan is going to take a little bit of a break. Movement in the bantamweight division. Pena moving down to number 10. Aldana moving up to number 13. The rest is just moved down because of that. This is Haley Hunt, the girl who I was trying to set up with Holly Holm, but you can see there she's going to be out for at least a year. Unbelievable. So for the time being, Holly Holm will fight for the featherweight title. Flyweight division, no movement. Strawweight division, Stan Shu, of course, moving up, and Paige Van Zandt moving down. Where exactly was she before? She was number 8. So literally just switching places with Stan Shu. Yan and Aguilar going up. So Stan Shu is going to be interesting. Maybe she'll be able to fight for the flyweight title. I can't necessarily say. I also brought Valerie Letourneau back from retirement. She's coming off of a loss, though, so she's definitely not exactly worthy of a championship opportunity. Mackenzie Dern's right there. But, we're going to have to see which of these girls in the flyweight division is able to get a really good win streak under her belt. Otherwise, I'm probably going to have to give it to someone like Stan Shu in the strawweight division. But yeah, so the thing is, with these fighters, they're able to move within weight classes rather easily. So if they would be stagnant in one division, maybe they would do better in another one. So that's kind of my thought process with someone like Stan Shu, or even like Estela Nunez, should she find herself kind of not stuck, but kind of just unable to get into this top 5 situation because of girls like Joanna and Rose who are kind of holding the division hostage a little bit. Carla Esparza is literally the gatekeeper of this division. She keeps just losing and then winning and then losing and then winning. Losing to Joanna, then beating Jessica Andrade, then losing to Rose, beating Jessica Aguilar, then losing to Joanna again. But it's a good place for someone like Carla because she's going to give someone like Christina a good test. And then finally, in our atomweight division, that's to be seen because of the Ultimate Fighter. So thank you guys for joining me for UFC 254. I'll see you guys at UFC 252. Once again, our next fight night is Henderson versus Price, but I will only be bringing you guys the pay-per-views from this point forward. Thanks you guys for joining me. This has been AZ Palau 21 signing off, and I'll see you guys in a month's time in game.